Okay. What I'm taking you through is I believe they are the most commonly asked free response questions on the AP exam. Each free response question will be worth 9 points. 9 points. Your goal is to get 3 or higher on each of the free response questions. Let's see how they allocate the points and take ourselves through it. It says solids of revolution. Let's start with the very first part. It says let R be the region enclosed by the graph f of x is e to the x and g of x is 3 minus x squared as shown above. We'll call this region right here that I'm shading in, we're going to call that R. The first question is find the area of R. What I want you to do right now is see if you can write an integral expression that represents the area of R. Take about a minute, talk with your peer, go. Okay, pause. Let's look up here, just see where you're at. As you write an integral expression, okay, what do you write?
3 minus x squared minus 2dx dx.
Good. What I'd like to do is change that just slightly with your permission. I'd like to put g of x as this curve right here. I like to put f of x as the e to the x, or e to the x curve. So I'm going to write it as g of x minus f of x. Now, if you actually put the expressions in there, that is 100% fine. But when we find area, we simply do top minus bottom. dx. Go ahead. You can. So there's 2 reasons. Number 1, I feel like it saves time. Second of all, had the situation where people write down the wrong equation. They make a mistake. So without a doubt, you could put the equations. For the nature of this course moving forward, I will always just use g of x and f of x.
Is that what they're looking for too?
They don't care if they'd like either one. But I'll be honest, the people that are grading it, they're teachers just like me. And, you know, what falls into line with their brain is exactly what we're doing here. Okay? So we have bounds from A to B. How would I find the bounds, A and B? So you would set them equal to each other. This is not solvable by hand, so you can use your calculator. Go ahead, type these into your calculator. See if you can come up with your, between you and your friends, try to see if you can come up with some intersection points there using your calculator. Hint, it involves second calculate. Second calculate. See what you can do. Go. Sir.
Did my calculator, I got, no, but it rounded the 2 last sides to 87 into 9. So that
It's okay. It's okay. Absolutely fine. Any questions how I came up with the negative 1.67 or the 0.834? So I go to my calculator, and I have the 2 graphs. And I go second calculate, and I do number 5 intersect. And so I just make sure I'm somewhere close to that intersection point. It asks me for the first curve, and then it moves to the second curve. You press enter on guess, and it'll find that intersection point to be the negative 1.67.
So how are you always want to use the x value?
Yes, you're always using the x value because it's dx. If it was dy, then you use y. What was the other question? We'll get to that in just a second here. Okay, so as I write it out, does that answer your question, Maddie? Okay, so I've got these 2 up here, and so I just write A and B. That's all I write. And so you need to write it out to at least 3 decimal places. at least 3 decimal places. So I write just A and B. As long as your grader can see that you've written A and B down in that format, then just go ahead and write A and B right there. Because it's probably going to come up again in the problem. So it's nice to make those notes somewhere up there. Okay? And again, the people grading it are teachers, and they want to be accurate and consistent, but they want to give you points. I mean, they're going to look to try to find the stuff to help you out. Okay? All right, so I've got that. So I'm going to go into my calculator, all right? And I would now like to actually determine this area. So what I'm going to do, make sure you're following along with me because you're going to use this multiple times moving forward, is I'm going to take off the equal sign there and off the equal sign there. And does anybody know what I'm going to type into y sub 3? Yeah, y2 minus y1. It's the 3 minus x squared that's on top, right? So I go into vars, and I go to y vars, function, and I grab the y2. You can see why I've taught you how to do a little bit of this before, and it's for this moment. And then I do minus, and I do vars, and I do y vars, and I do function y1. Notice how the other two are off. Is everybody okay with that? And what we would like to do is we'd like to do the integral. So second, calculate what? Number 7. And my lower limit is the negative 1.677. Make sure you type it into at least 3 decimal places, negative 1.677, 23. I'll type it in a few more. And then the other value is 0.83448. And it finds that area right above there, and you want to write your answer to at least 3 decimal places. 3.651. If you wrote 3.652, they would also give you credit. You can either cut it off after the third, or you can round to the third. It's up to you. They accept either or. Guess how many points that's worth on the AP exam? 3. They give you 1 point for doing G minus F. They give you 1 point for coming up with the correct bounds, and they give you 1 point for determining the right answer. I think that those are all very gettable points. Yes, they'll give you some partial credit along the way. Yep. Note that our average on the free response questions is a 2 out of 9. I think we can improve that to a 3 or 4. I really do. Gettable points, do you agree? All right, let's step up the difficulty a little bit. Find the volume when r is revolved about the horizontal line y equals 4. Find the volume when it's revolved about y is equal to 4. I want you to think about it and talk with your partner and say, what the heck would that even be? What have we done before that looks like that? Go, talk. Okay, all right. Can somebody tell me anything about the shape that I get when I rotate it? Washer. That's the first thing. Can you see the washer? So let's set it up. I'm going to draw a washer up here. Do you think they really want to see your washer on the AP exam? They do, yeah. They really do. Okay, that says, you know, you don't have to, but they like that you're using these techniques. I don't make up these techniques just because I find it helpful for teaching. Some of these are definitely used in people's work. They're like, oh, great, they're setting up the washer. What do I put in the middle? Y equals 4. Good. What do I put here? Yep. In fact, I'm going to put the g of x right here. And then down here, that's going to be my f of x. And is the width dx or dy? Dx. So some of you I've not chastised for not writing your dx, dy. That's coming on the AP exam. Okay? They want to see your dx or dy, and they may dock you accordingly. I expect that they will. So as we rotate it, you're going to have pi times big R squared minus little r squared dx. So the big radius is going to be the distance from here to here. What is that? 4 minus f of x, always top minus bottom. 4 minus f of x. And then 4 minus g of x. What are our bounds of integration? A and b. Okay. I'm just going to write under f of x that that's the e to the x function, and g of x, that is the 3 minus x squared function. So I'm going to go to my calculator, and we are going to make sure we type this in correctly. I've seen a number of examples where I actually get your work back. I can see your free responses. So so yeah, don't draw me a hand turkey. Yes, I see your tests. Yep. Okay. So please just try, put forth that effort. That's what I would hope you would do. So I'm going to put this expression in right here. Okay. So here we go. And I'm going to put parentheses 4 minus, and what do I put in place of f of x?
Y1.
That's going to be my y1 function. So vars, y vars, y1. Quantity squared minus 4 minus vars, y vars, and we're looking for y2, and that quantity squared. Is everybody okay with that? Then what do I press? So I can calculate. We'll get to the pi in a second. Thank you for bringing that up. Number 7, I'm going for the integration, and we are entering values again of negative 1.67 what? Give me 7, 2. There, we'll call it that good there. And then the other one is 0.83. Give me one more. Give me one more. 4. Okay. And so hopefully it just gathers that part right there. I get 17.109. 17.109. And here's where I've made a number of mistakes on the AP exam. I forget to multiply it by pi. Remember, Easton said, where do we put the pi in? I put it right there. If you leave that as the answer, it's correct. If you choose to multiply it by pi, that's correct. They'll accept either or. They don't ask you to write your number in certain notation. That make sense? Everybody okay with that? So nothing that we haven't seen before, right? So here's the one piece that's new, and this is going to be challenging for us to try to see what's happening here, but it's not a challenging problem. It says R is the base of a solid, meaning that this region in red right here is the base of a solid. And for each solid at X, the cross-section perpendicular to the X-axis is a square. So what that means is picture this thing coming off the screen at you, okay? People picture this coming off the screen at you. And if you were to slice it, you would slice squares, okay? So I'm just going to draw a slice. Picture that coming off the screen at you. Everybody okay with that shape? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a picture of that square, and you can see how easy this is to work with. Just like we found the volume of this washer piece, we're going to find the volume of this square. Is this square a dx or a dy? It continues to be dx. How do you find the area of a square? Yeah, you just multiply both sides, right? And so what is this dimension right here? What is this dimension right here? G of x minus f of x. Right? What's the other dimension? It's a square. G of x minus f of x, right? So the distance from here to here, Easton, is the top minus the bottom. Do you see that? So as we multiply all these together, we simply get this. We get the integral of g of x minus f of x, that quantity squared, dx. And we will integrate from a to b. Now, in this part of the problem, so far we got problem A right, we got B right, so we got 6 out of 9 points. We're doing pretty good. If we want to get 9 out of 9, then we've got to get this. That's a little bit trickier, huh? So, but hopefully we can do it. Number one, notice that they've asked for squares. Easiest figure for them to produce. They also might produce triangles. They also might produce semicircles. So we'll try different examples later on, but most commonly asked one, a square. Let's see if we can punch this in and come up with the answer. Whoop. No undo button on the calculator, huh? So I'm going to go parentheses, and it looks like g of x is y sub 2. So I go vars, y vars, function, y sub 2, and I subtract, oh, I've already got the y sub 1 there, don't I? And it's that quantity squared. So I've got it entered into my calculator, and I'm going to calculate number 7. And I'm going to go from negative 1.677, is that right, to 0.8344. And there's no pi involved here. I get 6.358. So again, as you read it, it says so R is the base of a solid. So this thing's the bottom, and the protruding up are going to be squares, it says. So just draw a square up, and once you know this, then you know the other side as well.
Okay, so we're maybe focusing on the base.
Yep. Yep.
Okay,
Yes. Okay, so this is not due anytime soon, but here's what I would encourage you to do, okay? The very first problem is similar to what we just did. The very first problem is similar to what we just did. You are welcome. Next to each problem, so the first one is A, B, and C. Here's all I need to keep in mind as you start to look through this, okay? As you start to look through this, because this is going to take us the rest of the week to kind of get through this, these kind of big review pieces. When you choose to work on this, if you did it on your own, just don't write anything to the side. But if you had to look at your notes or get help, then write notes. See what I'm saying? Because you're going to come up with a kind of an evaluative score to help you know how well you did with it. And if you did it without the use of your notes and were able to get it right, you'll give yourself 2 points. If you were not able to do it without looking at your notes, then you'll give yourself 1 point. You know what I mean? Because are you going to get your notes on the AP exam? But what I've learned over the years is I always used to just try to have the kids always do them without notes at all. And I've learned that that's just not helpful for some, that they need to be able to look back. Do you have something you could follow along with for this?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have what we just did. But so I would encourage you to try to do it without, and if you can't get through it, then go ahead and look back. That would be best for you. Got it? Very good. Enjoy the rest of your day. Looks like next week's gonna be in the 60s and 70s.
That's so exciting.